Many new drivers are baffled when they hear an experienced manual driver claim that they have less control in an automatic. They're like, what do you mean? It's way easier to control an automatic. I have a lot more control over the car. So in this video, I'm going to try and explain why. I'm not trying to push you to either learn in an automatic or manual. That's got to be your decision. You need to make that choice. I just want to explain why an experienced manual driver will often claim that they have less control when they drive an automatic. It's important for me to mention that not all automatics are the same. In this video, I'm focusing on this robotized manual style of automatic. I'll mention the other gearboxes later, but let's stick with this one for now, partly because I have it to hand, but also it's one of the more common, affordable automatics that have been sold in the UK for the past 15 to 20 years. What I have is a manual gearbox under the bonnet with a clutch. But I don't have a clutch pedal and I don't have a gear stick. Instead, I have a robot under the bonnet doing the clutch and the gears for me. You can call that robot an actuator, but I prefer robot because it's more descriptive. But the problem lies with the robot. This robot takes around about 1.5 seconds to change gear smoothly, which is all right for an average driver. But the trouble is, during those 1.5 seconds, there is no power available. And if it decides to change gear as I need power, then there's a window of time when I'm not going to be able to accelerate. I'll demonstrate now. I'm in gear 2. If I accelerate a bit more, it's going to go to gear 3 now, and I'm accelerating, nothing's happening, and then I'm going because it had to finish its gear change. So I wanted to accelerate just as it changed gear there, so therefore I wasn't able to accelerate. If I was driving a manual car, I would have been able to see, oh, I need to accelerate now. Let's leave it in second and just put my foot down and go. But the robot decided to change gear at an inopportune moment, which is what happens. Essentially, you've got two people, or should I say one person and a robot, trying to drive the car at the same time. Except the robot can't see what's about to happen on the road and it can't predict what I'm about to want to do. I also have less control when it comes to going down gears. For example, I'm in 3rd gear at the moment and I want to accelerate. I don't need the extra power a second. I just want to press the gas and go. So I put my foot on the gas pedal. It has a different plan. It changes to 2nd gear, makes the engine louder, but also delays my ability to accelerate whilst it changes down to 2nd. So it takes away some control of the car from me. It doesn't allow me to accelerate as and when I want to. I also get less control over the brake because as I slow down, the robot is changing down the gears and therefore giving me different levels of engine braking as it does so. So when I'm braking, I'm getting not much engine braking, then I'm getting more, then I'm getting less, and then I'm getting more. And I'm having to vary the brake to follow the robot, which leads to, well, it's less smooth slowing down. The passenger probably thinks I'm not controlling the car very well because my slowing down is less consistent. Whereas in a manual car, I'm changing down the gears myself. So I'm expecting when there's going to be more engine braking and when there's going to be less. I also have less control at maneuvering speed because the clutch controls the speed of the car when you're less than about 4 miles per hour. I don't have control of the clutch, the robot does. So it has to respond to my gas. And usually it lifts the clutch a little bit too high. I know there's no clutch pedal to lift. Let's pretend it's lifting the clutch because then it makes sense. So I press the gas, it lifts the clutch a little bit too high, so I've got to come off the gas. Press it again, lifts it a bit too high again, I've got to come off. So I can't keep a very low consistent speed. I'm either accelerating or slowing down. And it makes me feel like a novice driver because, well, I'm not able to keep that very consistent slow speed when I'm parking. I kind of have to sort of lurch my way gently into where I need to be. It's not bad, it's not terrible, but if you're used to driving a manual car and you have that level of control, it is a step down. Some of them work off the brakes. What happens is you come off the brake and then the car starts to roll, but it's a similar issue. You come off the brake, nothing, and then the car starts moving usually a bit too fast, and then you have to brake, and eventually it sort of pushes the clutch down and cuts power, and you end up lifting the brake, pushing it down, lifting the brake, and sort of the same thing happens where you're doing lots of series of small lurches, if you can call it a lurch, small nudges, let's call it a nudge. Yeah, little nudges instead of a more consistent slow speed. Whereas in this manual car, with a little bit of clutch control, I can keep the car as slow as I like without nudging the car or lurching the car forward. See? Really, really slow. Gives me confidence to maneuver in tight spaces. Like here, I'm getting quite close to the wall. Feel like I'm not going to hit. Reverse sensors are at their maximum, but they go like that at 0.4 meters, and I've got a little bit of space left. Of course, doing this for long periods of time is not good for your clutch, but you're only ever doing it for short periods like that when you're trying to maneuver. And doing that in a car with a robotized manual is the same. You're using the clutch, it's just that you're not doing it, the robot is, so you still have clutch wear. Robotized manual automatics come with either one clutch or two. The single clutch systems tend to be slow and a little bit more jerky, whereas the double clutch systems are faster and smoother. This is a single clutch system, and if I get in a car with a single clutch robotized manual, I tend to put it straight into manual mode and not use the automatic setting, because if I change gears on request myself, I usually can change gear more quickly and more smoothly, but also it changes gear when I want it to. Usually you have a lever here where you can go up and down the gears, or paddles on the steering wheel, or even both. This one only has the paddles on the steering wheel. So I'll put it into manual mode, get going, and when I want to go up a gear, I'll let off the gas. That makes it smoother, but also it feels quicker. So click the pedal, off the gas, and press it again. And that feels more like how I would change gear in a car. So it's more like a manual car now for me. I'll do it again. Click the pedal, off the gas, and on the gas again. Much smoother. Feels quicker, not sure if it actually is, I haven't timed it. And when I want to go down a gear, I blip the gas pedal to bring the revs up so that it can change down the gear more quickly, and generally it's more smooth. So I'll click the pedal, blip the throttle, and there you go, there's the lower gear. Go up a gear, click the pedal up, off the gas, and on the gas. This way, it only changes gear when I want to, and it's smooth. On hills, you don't tend to lose much control. In fact, I just find generally automatics and hills are easier. They don't generally let you roll back. I mean, if you stayed off all the pedals for a while, most would eventually, but they have some sort of hill hold assist system where it allows you to come off the brake and go to the gas to get going. So if I want to get going on this hill here, put it into automatic or manual mode, whichever one I like, doesn't make any difference. And all I do is I come off the brake and press the gas, and it goes forwards. And if I want to stay slow, I give less gas. If I stay off the pedals, eventually, yeah, it will roll back. But if I brake and come off the brake, it holds the car steady for a moment, and then I can give gas to get going. I've not driven an automatic that will let me roll back if I come off the brake and go for the gas. They all seem to allow me to have time to get to the gas pedal, or you just come off the brake and they start rolling. There have been some torque converter automatics that I've used where if I'm on a very steep hill, if I come off the brake, it will go to roll back, but not very quickly, and I do have time to get to the gas to get going. When going down long stretches of hill, I recommend using manual mode and choosing a lower gear so that you don't have to use the brakes as much. That way you're not going to overheat the brakes. I live in Essex, so I don't actually have to worry about this because, well, the hills only last for seconds. But if you live in Cornwall, Yorkshire, Scotland, Wales, somewhere where you're going down hills for like minutes, then a lower gear will help prevent you from overheating your brakes. The good news is every automatic car I've driven has given me some way of keeping a low gear. Some have the letter L, that's for going downhill, so you stay in a lower gear. Some have numbers 1 and 2, or even sometimes 1, 2 and 3. Select 3, it won't go above gear 3. Select 2, it won't go above gear 2, etc. Some have a lever with a plus and minus, and some have paddles with a plus and minus, or even both. I'm now going to quickly go over the different types of automatic gearboxes and how they differ from each other. I've already mentioned the robotized manual with either one clutch or two clutches. You can also get a torque converter automatic, which is the traditional automatic. If you had an automatic before the year 2000, it's likely going to be a torque converter. They're big, heavy, and inefficient, which is why they went out of fashion, but they're good. They're smooth, they slush the gears together, which is why they're called a slush box. That's their nickname. And also they're usually quite easy to control at low speed. They're actually coming back now because they're no longer as inefficient as they used to be. They're getting quite good again. When I say again, I mean they were good for their time, then robotised manuals replaced them, and now torque converter gearboxes are starting to replace the robotised manual again, because the advantages of the torque converter are starting to outweigh the advantages of a robotised manual, if that makes any sense. You know, technology sometimes comes back. You can also get what's known as a CVT, which stands for continuously variable transmission. Technically, they're great. They keep the engine at an efficient speed, and if you want power, they keep the engine where it produces power. But people don't like them. They're easy to drive, smooth, they've got power there when you want them, but they make a loud noise because it puts the revs where the power is when you put your foot down and the power is high revs. People don't like that constant sound. They're used to the go like that. People are like, what's wrong with this car? So although they're technically great, they are often shunned and they're not that popular. Toyota and Lexus like to use them. You can also get what's known as an e-cvt. Now don't confuse this with the CVT I just mentioned. They are very different. An e-cvt is essentially a hybrid. Toyota call it a self-charging hybrid, which is a little bit cheeky because you could say all cars have an alternator and charge up the 12-volt battery, so all cars really are self-charging. But it is a hybrid you don't have to plug in, and it does drive very much like an electric car. That e-cvt is a couple of electric motors with some gears, and the engine really most of the time just charges the battery, although it can send power to the wheels when needed. They're easy to drive, lots of control, the power is there when you want it because they drive like an electric car. Electric cars don't have a gearbox. They don't need one, which is why electric cars are probably the easiest type of car to drive. You put your foot on the go pedal, it goes, you come off the go pedal, it slows. It's immediate, it's reactive, and they're usually very powerful. You can also get what's known as a plug-in hybrid, very different to the self-charging hybrid I just mentioned. Plug-in hybrids are normally a normal engine with either a torque converter automatic or a robotised manual automatic, but there's an electric motor in there as well with a battery, so you've got some electric range. Also, that electric motor can help with performance, efficiency, and fill in the gaps between gear changes. But they do drive quite different to the other hybrid I mentioned, the e-cvt. They drive more like a traditional automatic or a robotised manual automatic when you're not using the electric motor, or when you're using the battery, they drive just like an electric car. I hope this video helps you understand why some drivers say they have less control in an automatic car. If you think it does, then please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for car insurance, check out the links to Collingwood and Confused in the description. If you're learning to drive and want to insure yourself on somebody else's car, then Collingwood are there for you because you can do so without affecting the owner's policy, which takes away a big stress from the owner of that car. At the moment, via the link, there's up to 35% off and a £20 Amazon gift card. If you want to insure your own car, check out the link to confused.com. You fill out one quote form, get loads of quotes back from many insurers so you can compare who's cheapest, but also you can change your car on that quote as many times as you like, which is really helpful when you're trying to compare how much it costs to insure different cars. That's helpful when you're trying to decide what car you want to buy. Using the links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much. Subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio.